Wolves. So I just got this video like literally 1 minute before I finished the report for today, and I didn't want to hold out on you for another 24 hours with this because Conrad Coleman is back and flying. Take a look.
It has been like this, worse than this all night. 35 knots gusting 40, and got two reefs and two reefs in the fractional. And at times that was great, other times that was overpowered, and then we've just been doing these crazy surfs. The size of that wave rearing up. I know it looks small on camera, but it's huge. Look at that thing. So, been averaging more than 19 knots and hitting speeds of 29 and change, which is pretty fast when you've got mountain-sized waves that you're bouncing over. So it's like this all the time. Just bounce, 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 surf. Okay, now we're doing 22 knots, 23, 24, and whew. 17. So it's this constant acceleration and deceleration of just picking up the wave. And slamming into the next one. I did fill the sail briefly because it was getting a little out of control. But in the last 2 meters of the fill, I let too much slack in the sheets, and they got wrapped around each other and made a knot. And then that stopped me from getting a tight furl on the last part of the sail. And so, as you know, maybe when the furl is not tight, it can catch the wind and start to come undone. And so, to save the sail, I had to take it out again. So. I tried to slow down and I couldn't, which is a little bit worrisome. But what's exciting is behind me. See that? It's a little bit of blue sky. First the sun comes up and that helps. Well, does that really help? Then you see the size of the waves. But it's a little bit of blue sky. So I think that the front is coming, and it should be clear afterwards. We've been having the progressive wind shift that's telegraphing the arrival of the front. So I think it should be settling down from now on. So, if the wind gets below 30, I'll be happy. Maybe I can get some sleep then.
Hello Sea Wolves and welcome back to the channel. Especially thank you all for waiting for the last episode, which was in the end I think 3.5 hours later, because the Q&A was so long that the episode turned out twice longer than the usual length. So I guess the file was about twice larger, and well, I think we found the limit for YouTube processing 4K video, so that took very, very long. So maybe the next Q&A session will upload in 1080p. I don't know, but technical challenges are part of the Vendeeglobe, so in that sense, it was kind of with the spirit of the race. Thank you guys anyway for our 1 million views episode last time. So very cool to see that so many of you waited and we ended up being live with about still like 1,500 or something of you. So very cool on that part. I hope you liked that particular intro. Of course, with the trimaran this time. And there's a reason for that. I wanted to start really quickly with the Trophy Jules Verne. But before we do that, of course, it's time to have something delicious in your cup. Possibly official Sea Wolf cup. That's totally possible. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Cheers, Wolves. Well, I actually mentioned it yesterday on the show when we were talking about the kind of efficiency and the design of the IMOCAs, and is it a good design, is it kind of like a compromise, etc. And I mentioned that there is of course also the Maxi Trimaran, foiling Trimaran design, which we're using for the Trophy Jules Verne and for several like around the world time records and Atlantic crossing records, etc. Very fast concept, but I mentioned that in my mind, this particular, though it is a fantastic, like they are true spaceships, like it's an amazing thing to see it in action, they are in my mind not such a robust platform, because every single damn time we see record attempts being crushed over you know, relatively minor foil or rudder damage. And what do you know, yesterday the last remaining contestant for this current Trophy Jules Verne attempt, Sables-d'Olonne 3, had to also turn back to France because they sustained some damage to the rudder because they hit something in the water. And actually only like something like a half a day or like a day before that, the second attempt, L'Azertique, which actually left you know, like a day and a half after Sables-d'Olonne 3, also had to turn back because of a broken foil. So it kind of literally shows, right? We have 40 IMOCAs doing essentially the same route, and so far 39 of them have made it. And we had one like slight hit to a rudder that was actually fixable, and they're still able to sail on, while we have now just 2 attempts, so not 40 but just 2, and both of them cancelled within 4 days of actually starting up the attempt due to hitting something in the water. So the reasons for that are various, but I guess it is a good illustration of kind of my point of saying that even though these trimarans are amazing, the speeds they can achieve are amazing, but I think that until they figure out some way to instantly replace the foils, so I think that because the oceans are getting kind of more polluted with more kind of like trash just kind of floating around, pieces of wood, different things, and the enormous speed and just also weight of these, so when they hit something, it's kind of instantly race ending and catastrophic as far as the breakages that they get, that until they find some kind of way to maybe rotate out different foils, so you have like 5 different sets on each place of the foils, so that when one breaks you can just kind of rotate it out and rotate a new one in. And even then, I think, to kind of guarantee a good Trophy Jules Verne record, you're going to need like 3 to 5 foils in every position if you want to be sure that you're going to make it all the way around the world and not still have your attempt end somewhere like almost near the finish. You know what happened to Boris in the last Vendeeglobe, for example, almost could have perhaps won the Vendeeglobe or been like second place, and then hit a fishing trawler that was fishing at night without AAS on. this type of thing can happen. So just an interesting side note on the Jules Verne's. And that for now concludes, I guess, our coverage of the Jules Verne, because there are no more Jules Verne attempts. Now both teams, so both SVR Les Arctiques and Sotibu, are going to attempt to make repairs and do another attempt, but the weather window for these attempts is rather small, and yeah, so the summer on the south hemisphere is ticking away, so they don't have a lot of time, and the weather kind of has to work with them in every possible conceivable way to even be able to make this attempt. So I'm not saying that they're not going to do another attempt this season, but the chances of them succeeding this season again have gone down, I think, substantially.
Lots of birds here around me. There's an albatross there. I don't know what the little blackbirds are.
So a lot going on in the OIMCA fleet as well. Interesting again, because a lot of you have been asking me, like, do the skippers actually watch Sea Wolves? Now, I don't know, because the satellite data is rather precious, I would think. But it is interesting that yesterday we were talking about food on board of the OIMCAs. And one of the things I mentioned is that Clarisse Cramer is very fond of grapefruit, so I heard that she brought a bunch on board, and I only had actually one video of her showing one, but because of time reasons with the editing yesterday, which was already very long, I didn't put it in. And not an hour after the episode went live yesterday, she actually ended up showing off her entire grapefruit collection that she still has on board. So for those of you who asked the questions about food and what kind of fruit they bring, well, this is a nice example of the big supply of like the favorite fruit that Clarisse brought. So that's kind of a cool detail to show off. Also, something that is very nice is we got a beautiful onboard shot from Conrad Coleman again, who has definitely found some speed. Looking good, huh? Beautiful images. And I guess he has, at least to some extent, got his satellite communication working again. So no actual in-depth on what exactly happened so far now. But I suspect in the next episode we'll have a more in-depth update on exactly what went wrong and maybe what he did to fix it. So looking forward to that. But anyway, seems to be sailing very fast for now. And quick, little bit sad update on Pip Hare's situation. I guess many of you maybe already saw the video, but here it is.
Yeah, tough day for me today, which started last night when my keel motor stopped working. So my keel was stuck in one position. And I called a shore team and we went through a whole load of scenarios, and I ended up changing out a relay for the motor about 11 o'clock at night, and it was really, really rough. Boat was like lurching and flying. It was really hard work, and put the new relay in, it didn't work. Put the old one back in, it didn't work. We did about 2 hours of diagnostics and couldn't work out what the problem was. And that kind of wiped me out. So I kind of sailed for a bit and then decided I would have a longer sleep just to try and recover. And while I was sleeping, the furling line for my big sail broke, just snapped. The sail came out. I didn't hear it. It flapped around a lot, maybe for 2 hours, and it punched a hole in another sail. So yeah, it's been carnage this morning, just carnage. So here's my sail here. There's quite a big hole in it. I fixed the relay this morning, so we took, the new one was faulty, so I ended up having to take both of them apart and build a new one out of the bits that worked out of both of them. But at least the keel's working again now. Got a bit of a light spot to fix this sail. Just need to put one foot in front of the other for the next 12 hours and I'll get through it. So stupid being upset about it. I'm tired and I just feel like I'm being punished. Really punished. What a mess. So I've got to fix the sail, make a new furling line, fix the other furling line because I found some chafe in it. At some point I might eat and sleep too. And all before the wind builds again.
Okay, well, let's actually dive into the tracker, because another kind of interesting thing that happened yesterday, so, or actually the day before yesterday, no, was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. I talked about both Yoann, dive in here with me, and Thomas Ruyant, kind of being stuck. So they kind of sailed up, and I said that they probably were actually not up high enough to really avoid the low pressure, and that they would be forced to kind of take position together with Charlie Dahlin and Sebastian Simon and kind of ride that inside lip of the storm. But it seems that they actually, hardened in their desire to actually avoid the lip and still went for the higher option. So they braved some pretty strong sailing. You can see kind of the current situation, which is about right here. So they have been sailing through some pretty strong stuff already for the last like 7 hours or so, I think. But in any case, they decided to just harden in their decision to avoid the worst of the storm. So we have a true split in the beginning of the fleet with just Thomas and Sebastian in front, who are just about to enter the real heavy stuff in the storm. So they're currently both sailing in, I think if I looked at Vendee, it's saying that they're currently in about 30 knots of wind. Yeah, so they got 30 knots of wind right now, and of course, beating down on the speed, trying to keep everything safe. So they both have an average VIG of 11 knots now. That's kind of what you get in a storm like that. While if we look at what Thomas and Yoann are doing, we see that they are actually doing about 15 knots and a little bit better speeds in kind of 25 knot wind speed. So they just have a much more comfortable ride, it seems, and so far their VMGs are reflecting that. And you can see also that if you look at it sort of in the longitudinal way, they are getting actually very close. So I talked yesterday also about the good point to keep in mind that the more north on the hemisphere, on the world you are, the longer the route. And this is a significant difference because, of course, as the world gets kind of smaller, the closer you get to the ice gauge, the smaller the round that you make around the world. So the more south you go, the shorter your route. It's kind of an automatic advantage. So both Charlie and Sebastian are making a lot of use of that, and they are, I think, roughly about 100 miles or so north of the other guy. So that is quite a substantial difference also there, in that their route will literally be quite a bit shorter if they can keep at this particular degree of being south compared to the other two men. But at the same time, if your VMG is 5 knots lower and you're in all these waves, risking quite a bit of damage, that might be just enough to negate the difference. And of course, by the end of the Southern Ocean, you also have to get back up north again. So it's not all advantages. And I would say so far, it seems that I actually think that it has worked out into the advantage of both Yoann and Thomas Ruyant. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen over the next day or so, because they're kind of entering the storm now. The worst is going to come, both for the guys really in the south, in maybe 10 to 12 hours, something like this. So sort of in the morning of Thursday. Yeah, so something like that. So yeah, it remains to be seen how things are going to go and how well they will survive, and how it will translate also into possible speed for Yoann and Thomas. But I think so far it looks like they made the right choice to stay a bit higher. But we have to wait and see. Then let's take a look at the rest of the fleet. So the whole group with Boris. So we have L'Occitane, Clarisse Cramer I talked about earlier. We have Boris, we have Initiative Skur with Samantha Davis, and we have Teamwork Snaff. All been doing pretty well. If we take a quick look at their averages, let me scroll back to the time. Now, where are they? Yeah, here. Doing pretty good VMG, so 14.5 knots or so. I guess the back, so Clarisse and Boris both in not so much wind. Samantha doing a bit better, and Teamwork Snaff also a little bit better. Justine with 17 and 16 knots. VMGs, and Clarisse Cramer actually having a bit problem. She is missing one of her sails, and yeah, she's in the unfortunate situation that she's in a little bit less wind than the rest of the group. So actually in an audio interview earlier today, she mentions that it's very likely that she's so far behind now that she's kind of losing the low, and will be kind of one of the first to do what I talked about also in an earlier episode, which is kind of drop out of the system that she's currently in, which means that she's going to be experiencing a bit of, you know, let's say a more low wind situation, and then will kind of drop off and be picked up by this other group that's kind of behind her. You can see them here. And so it looks very likely that that is what's going to happen there.
Well, that's why I'm a bit disappointed. I'm going to be eaten by, I'm going to be left by the low pressure that I was trying to follow yesterday and today, whereas the small group with me will stay with it a little bit longer. So I will be joined by the next low pressure, and which means the next low pressure and the birds that are in it. So Guyot, Fortinet, Bureau Valley, and there is not much I can do about it. I just have to wait for the next wind. So a bit frustrating, because it's just a few of miles of difference make a big difference. I hope to be wrong, but I'm afraid that's what's going to happen.
She's going to be leaving one group because she just can't keep up with the wind there, and then she's going to probably have to, well, it's not like she's going to be popping around like a cork, but it'll be in an area with a bit lesser wind until the other group in the next bus, you know, in the next train, in the next low coming by, will more or less get much closer to her, and then she'll be able to ride along with that system, along with Lewis Burton and Pip Hare and that other group. So that's something else that's very likely to happen now. Then for the whole group that is about to get into the Cape, we talked about that yesterday also. And yeah, that seems like it's still just exactly true. So everybody there in pretty good positions, but the weather's gonna be exactly as we predicted yesterday. So they're going to be passing the Cape in 25 to 30 knots. The strong Agulhas currents probably creating some pretty confused seas. We already see some images coming out of that part of the fleet of some pretty rough sea states and fast sailing, so it's not all bad. I mean, this is good for their position, but it's definitely a trying crossing of the Cape, let's say. Yeah, and with that is the analysis for today. So a little bit of a shorter show, maybe that's lucky compared to yesterday. And again, thank you all for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and enjoy your morning or afternoon or evening. And see you in 24 hours. Ciao, ciao.